All right. Well, here we are. Leadership uncertain. And today, Hugh, I thought we might talk about the glory and the frustration of leading human beings, and in particular, I've had a recent I don't know breakthrough awakening in the notion, two notions. One, I am enough. Two, there is no hurry. And in part, as a result of that breakthrough, awakening, real, true sense of a different reality. As a result of that, I really don't want to do the things that I don't want to do,
Okay.
and there are things that need doing. And I've interestingly kind of put that in the same category, or at least in a large bucket with the frustrations that leaders that I talk to have with Joe, who's got X and such to do and isn't doing it, or isn't doing it on time, or who seems to forget. Mary, who seems to forget her commitments from one day to the next, or goes through some internal mental process to really change the nature of those commitments. And these are I imagine, leadership complaints that are familiar to you, as I think they are familiar to everybody who's ever managed another human being or their own self.
There's a lot to that hoagie of a question. Read it and all the.
Yeah, well, I try to come with easy questions, like
Oh
what
my
is my first
gosh.
one?
All
Yeah.
right, so I'll tell you where my brain goes first. We we got really clear in our business back in 2005 that, well, I happened to belong to a coaching program that was led by a fellow named Dan Sullivan. He has to be
Mm,
in his 90s now,
no
but
kidding. Yeah, he's written all kinds of great books.
all kinds of books. And back then, he had joined forces with a lady by the name of Catherine Nomura, who actually used to work for him. And she wrote a book called Unique Ability. And
Mm,
so I was a very young leader when I started to understand that my goal, as fast as I could make it happen, was to operate in my unique ability. And unique ability is defined not as something that you are great at. Unique ability is defined as a series of skill sets and behaviors that align with activities that you are extraordinarily aligned with. Like, this is almost world class level talent that you possess in the things you do, and it brings you life, and you can always see mastery in it, and you can always get deeper. And the whole orientation of the program was what needed to happen so that the entrepreneur could be put in a situation where they were spending 90% of their time engaged in activities that were conducive to their unique ability. And then you went a step further and you delegated to people for whom those tasks were their unique abilities.
yes.
And that is the goal, was became the overarching goal. And we would do things with cognitive testing like Colby and a few
Hmm.
other kinds of profilings to basically design the work so that it would attract the person who was most likely to have the thing we were asking them to do be in their unique ability. Because the last thing you want to do is manage people's activities.
Right. Right
And
on.
instead, you want the work to be so in line with how they derive value in themselves and how they define value for themselves, that the chances that you're going to have to go babysit them and their commitments reduces dramatically. Now, as leadership structures become more complex, and our teams are more lean today than they've ever been. So there are lots of different functions that happen, especially for my leaders. I realize that some of the things we ask them to do are no longer in their unique ability, and task complexity becomes a real challenge. And I know for myself, I have to find grace, because what I do know, and fortunately I have enough relationship capital with my team to get there. If I want something to be focused on or done, it will be done,
Mm-hmm.
but at what cost?
Mm-hmm.
So what else has to suffer? Because you can't have one of the beautiful, I appreciate that Simon Sinek makes this point in the why, in the Start With Why book. He talks about the paradox slash ludicrous approach that we have to the word priorities.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have two
as if
priorities.
you can have it be plural.
That's right. You
Yeah.
can't have two of them. You can have one of them. Now you can rotate them, and they don't always have to be the same from one moment to the next, but you can only have one priority. And so I feel like the if you can orient your people so that you are delegating to them that which truly matters, and they trust you enough to execute faithfully to that which you say is most important, then the responsibility is on the leader to understand and appreciate where the priorities in the business are. And if everybody is truly working with goodwill and good intent to the best benefit of the business, then it's for you as the leader to just simply relax into the fact that the thing that is supposed to be important will be done first, because that's what we're doing now. And if we don't have that discipline, then you get what you get. What are your thoughts?
So, I'm talking with business leaders all the time who believe that they've been clear about what is the priority, have asked for it, have gotten commitments. Although, actually, I think that's the getting a commitment we can come back to in a minute, because I think it's one of the most often and to the greatest detriment omitted pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And then they're not getting what they've asked for,
Well,
and sometimes with with great defense. Lots of reasons that it didn't get done. Lots of reasons that it didn't get done to standard. And so people, leaders are I think all over the world frustrated, myself included at times. There's great people on my team who are at one point or another simply failing to deliver.
and we're about to annoy and or piss off so many people right now, because unfortunately I have all the love in my heart, and the way it works is that love is not consistent with sympathy right now. Because because I'm brutal with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how you know that you haven't brought the level of engagement and commitment to the staff so that they are aligned with the work that's to be done. They're not doing it. The results are very clear,
That's
and the
fantastic.
feedback is powerful. So you can
Say
sit
that
here.
again and dig into it.
Okay. So how you know that you have not commanded the appropriate level of significant commitment? You may have received words that were sounds in your ears, but the fact that you know that the commitment was not truly made was because the stuff you asked for didn't happen. And it's the results that we get to appreciate and amend. Again, the idea isn't that they're good or bad. We're not going to try to excuse people's behaviors. We're not trying to sugarcoat anything or give anybody a bad name, and we're not even going to make this wrong on the leader, because even that is its own feedback loop. Does that make sense to you? So
Yeah.
the idea then becomes, The feedback is, what can I do, or how can I communicate the intensity, the requirement, the importance of this task, action, project to be done, such that this other person to whom I am selling, that they get to be aligned with its purpose and its importance, make it the priority that I believe it deserves to be.
Mm. So,
And if I have not done that sell enough, the proof
yeah,
is in the pudding.
there's so much there. And I want to go back to a word that you used. You talked about the results are what we as leaders have. I think you said that's what we have to appreciate.
Yes,
And I
feedback.
think when most people hear the word appreciate, they think about the meaning that is gratitude.
Mm.
And when you use the word appreciate just now, whatever your intention was, I heard the word appreciate in another definition, which is equally valid for appreciate, which is to grasp, to grok, to fully comprehend the nature, the meaning, the impact of something.
Yes.
And so in that regard, the results are what we have to appreciate.
Yes.
And what I know lots of leaders, and I've spoken with and worked with lots of leaders who don't want to hear from their salespeople about how it's the prospects who don't get it, and yet will themselves say, "Yeah, my team doesn't get it."
And that is sales.
Right.
Sales, I mean, for the leader. So
Correct.
there's this really
They've
awesome
missed the sale.
misconception that I am in the business to sell to customers. I am in the business to sell to everyone. I am selling employees on vision. I am selling
Yep.
folks on work that needs to be done. I am selling my kids to please go to bed on time because their
Eat
future
the broccoli.
depends on it. I'm selling spouses on, dates and plans and future. I am selling confidence for my customers to buy. I am selling for my partners to play ball and align with a vision that we get to create in the future. I am selling to my vendors to invest in us, their time, focus, and energy, and
Yep.
and excellence, and to adopt our standard for excellence so that our customers, our shared customers, can have an incredible experience. I am selling and selling and selling, and all day long, I am selling vision, and I am attempting to command confidence and collaboration. That is my
And
job.
right. And sales, leadership is a sales job, right? Selling
Absolutely.
all the things that you are talking about. And the great, uh, I would call it a grace, and also the great challenge of leadership and all other sales jobs is that there are activities that you can do. There are actions you can take. And it is not up to you exactly
Hmm.
whether this attempt succeeds or fails.
And you know what's awesome? And this is the part that requires a bit of grace. You're always practicing the practice.
Mm.
So when people don't do what I say, it's easy to get frustrated. Totally understandable. And then after the frustration wave has subsided, we have an opportunity to recognize and appreciate the feedback.
Yeah.
How was I presenting such that this person was not in alignment with the desired outcome?
Right.
Is it that our purposes are designed at odds? Because a lot of times we try to ask for things from an adversarial context.
Hmm.
So if I show up to you, it's 5:30, you want to go home to deal with your kids or to have fun or play, and I'm asking you to spend an extra hour to do this extra spreadsheet. We're now in an adversarial context. And if I haven't taken the time to understand and get an understanding of your context for where you are right now and your desire to do this thing
And appreciate it, right?
and
In the same,
appreciate it,
yeah.
then I'm not doing a good enough job of understanding my customer.
Right. How can you sell if you don't understand the context?
Exactly.
and
and
comprehend
and
and
and I
acknowledge and accept.
and so because I am paying their paycheck, all of a sudden all of the requirements to be
Mm.
a dignified, dignity granting human being are somehow waived.
Yeah, right. We get haughty by signing a paycheck. So often we can get haughty by signing a paycheck and believe therefore that somebody else then owes us, that there's some, it's almost as if there's some kind of ownership relationship. The fact is any healthy relationship is an equal exchange in one way or
Yes.
another.
Well, and I would say, so when people ask me, when I really, and I know this is going to sound really hippie like, but I'm in good company. I really, really take offense when people call me their boss
Mm,
because I don't feel like one.
mm,
If you understand the history of this business, the business we're in, I was the guy. I did every single person's role. It was me for 2 years until it was somebody else and me.
mm,
And we went one at a time until it was 20 of us. And there's not a single person's job in this business that I haven't done at some level. Now, there's some things we do that I don't even understand how it works, but that's besides the point. My point here is this: it has been very fruitful to adopt the disposition that when there is work to be done, I'm so happy for the help.
mm.
Oh my
I,
gosh, I'm
I feel
so
that way
happy,
too. I'm
so
so
happy for the
grateful for
help
the help.
because I know
Um,
how much it used to suck to do this. Insert job description there. Go ahead.
at the same time, I don't really mind the boss. And I think for one thing, there are all these memes about the boss versus the leader, and the manager versus the leader, and the decrying of managers and bosses as somehow lesser or evil. You know, I'm training to ride from my bike from Seattle to Portland,
There was one
and
point I did want to make before we
yeah,
didn't. So finish your point. I wanted to make sure that I clarified it. Go ahead.
and I've got Chat GPT as my training expert and
Sure.
buddy, right?
Yeah.
And I give it my data and I say, okay, what's next, boss, right? Or I say, like you told me to do this and you told me to stay in this zone, or do this, and I'll give it my data and I say, how, you know, compared to what you told me to do, how'd I do, boss? Uh, I think, I think it depends for me on the spirit in which the word boss is used.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll qualify. So, two things. A lot of times people try to defer and they look to me as if I am supposed to, that I am beyond their skills.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a shadow, I've seen it happen in even in my organization where because I'm the boss, there's an expectation that not as much as is expected from them.
Yes, right,
And that's something that we have to neutralize immediately. The other
right.
thing that I realize is a lot of times when I hear it and it's communicated, it's almost hierarchical.
Mm-hmm.
And in my case, I think about my organization as almost back to front. So my managers and my folks are on the front lines and there are customers on the other side of that line. And then every system that exists in the business is simply behind them to basically catch whatever doesn't come through or does
Yep.
come through. And at the very back of that organization is me basically running to the folks that are at the back, giving them whatever they need
Right.
so that they can support the people in front of them so that they can support the people in front of them.
Yep.
And so it's not a situation where we're looking down, it's that they get to be taken care of and whoever's in front of you is your ward to be taken care of.
Right on.
And so that's the spirit with which we do this. And so when people tell me that I'm the boss, it's sure contextually what that means is that I've got you. I've got you. If you're going to be good in goodwill, you're going to engage in the culture that we're creating here. You're going to be absolutely focused on executing on the vision of the business, and you're going to have your own ideas, and you're going to go where you find the most amount of value in the company. Fantastic. And whatever's stopping or slowing that process down, I've got you. And our
Yeah.
managers have the same disposition. Go ahead.
And I think, and there, different organizations handle this differently. There is a determinative quality to being the leader of an organization from in the big picture fashion.
Sure.
And so in that way, when people ask me to serve the clarity of that and say, hey boss, I need your thoughts on this. And what they're asking for is some clarity about the big picture. Awesome. And when instead they're asking for decisions or clarity where they have enough on the ball to not be dumb. Now,
That's a
that's
great
yours.
distinction. That's a great distinction.
And I don't even mean as good as me. It's like, no, just go, don't be dumb. Right?
Sure.
Don't
Absolutely.
be foolish.
Well, and a lot of times I will go so far as to say, I don't know that foolish and dumb is the word I would use. I'm not saying that it's bad or wrong. I know what comes up for me is a lot of my job is staying unconfused. That's a huge part of my job. And I have experts now on the team that have been with me for as long as the business has almost been around. And they still come to me for help and guidance. And I realized the other day, it's not because I'm smarter. That's not it. It's because they afford me the opportunity to keep a clean perspective.
I think that's a great distinction.
And that has been really powerful. So a lot of my job is, oh, by the way, this is the goal of the exercise. This is the point of the exercise. And it was a beautiful moment. I was sitting with two of my technology experts, and I was explaining to them the framework from which we can now solve almost every challenge in a particular domain of our business. Because one of them was really kind of going through the challenges that he was having with a very difficult problem. And I said, you know what? Here is the framework that I want you to think about everything that happens next. So you would come to effectively the same decisions I would. It took about 10 minutes to describe. And then I will tell you, it gave me goosebumps again, just to think about it. It was amazing to just listen to him talk out how to solve the problem himself.
Yes, that's fantastic.
And that was one of probably the best moments of leadership that I probably have had in a decade.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's already one of the smartest people I know. So to just listen to him walk through the logic, given just a few different mental anchors,
right?
So he can just orient himself, and anything he was thrown, he was like, okay, not getting disturbed, not getting unfocused, and just talked himself, answered all of his own questions, and then came out the other side and said, okay, I don't need you anymore.
Right.
And I was like, that is what a W looks like.
Yeah, I love that. Right. So you're saying, if I heard you right, this is how I think about this. Now, apply that.
Here are the rules.
Algorithm.
Here are two things you got to always be sure of. Here are two things you always have to make sure are true.
Go. Yeah. It reminds me of the woman on my team who does most of my appointment setting. And there's somebody who had asked us for an appointment. She'd sent a couple of emails with available times. He hadn't responded. And I was, at some point I said, what's the holdup? But, I don't remember exactly how we got there, but at some point she was concerned about picking up the phone because she didn't want to irritate. And I said, well, all right, well, tell me what you know about this guy's schedule. Tell me what you know about this guy's work life. And then tell me what you know about this guy's inbox. And So if that was all true of you, would you rather get a third email or a first phone call?
Oh wow, that one hits a nerve. So that one hits a nerve. We have an army of, well, we used to have an army of admin people. Now we're looking for a new admin. And one of the things, I mean, they were ruthlessly efficient, and email allows for efficiency. And
Mm,
then a lot of times it would be kind of frustrating to see them almost act as if their hands are tied, that they can't
mm,
reach out and just connect. And what could be done in 5 minutes via phone would take another 2 days via email, right?
mm.
And I suppose one of the things we would have to consistently do is just remind our folks that they are empowered to solve the problem, to deliver results. Emailing
Mhm.
someone is a task that is in process, as opposed
Preach.
to getting the appointment set is the
Yes.
result that we are looking for. Doing things versus getting things done. The distinction is massive.
Huge. And one of the things that would behoove us as leaders uh, is to not permit task focus. With this same person on my team, she shows me every day, sends me by Slack. These are the things I'm looking to get done today.
Mm.
And for the longest time, it was task, 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 task. And what I said to her was, I want to see result, 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 result. You may or may not succeed in any
But the
given day
result
of
is where we get
achieving
the
all those
focus.
results.
Yes.
And as long as you're not focused on results, you're going to keep doing activity that's ineffective. And
Mm.
I was asleep at the wheel for too long, so that she was task focused. I go, yeah, those tasks make sense. Make sense, make sense, make sense, make sense was my kind of quick blush. And I was like, why aren't we getting the results? And I, oh, well,
Because you're doing stuff.
hey,
You're not
dude.
getting stuff done. Well,
Yeah.
I really give you a lot of credit, because the mirror is where most of the responsibility is most useful to accept. I'm not going to say belongs.
Mm,
I just know my results are better when I take a look at a situation and I recognize, you know what? What if I'm the only variable?
we
I
keep
know
coming
I'm
back to
not.
serenity prayer, right?
Right. What if? What if I were the only variable? How much power would I have to assume in order to inspire, convince, influence, address, reprioritize, engage, so
Yeah.
I'm a more effective human being in the situation, as opposed to this person is dumb and they are just making it hard for themselves and me to get along. What if I gave up all that power and opportunity to just put it on somebody else that I don't control?
That brings me to one of the things that I thought we would get to, and I think we're just about to get to it, because it's easy to think of somebody as dumb or incompetent or whatever. And I remember being a teacher at Stadium High School in Tacoma,
Hmm.
and there was a kid in my class, we'll call him Gary. And man, all of his teachers just clearly got a lot out of bashing on this kid in conversation with one another. I don't think they meant to bash at him. He was just incredibly frustrating
Sure.
to have in our classroom. He was disruptive. He was non-compliant. He was not evidently intelligent in the ways that school tends to measure intelligence.
Sure.
Um, uh, uh, and he was rude.
Okay.
So I understood their frustration with him, and I will never forget the day when I, as a theater technology teacher, I lay out a bunch of lighting instruments, different kinds, on tables around the room. The tables were all configured differently than usual. Everybody came in there like, "What is going on?" And I broke them up into groups, and I said, "I just want you to go from station to station and use your hands to disassemble and reassemble these lighting instruments, because I can't think of a better way to learn how they work than and how you're going to have to work them
Yeah.
than by playing with them. And I was walking around the room, and I came across the table where this young man was, and he had detached the broom from the broom handle from the corner of the room, and was using the broom to dismantle one of the parts of the lighting instrument that's by hand one of the most difficult things to do. It really takes some strength and finesse. And he saw me, and he immediately looked very guilty, and I was, please continue. And he, to great effect, used this broom handle to disassemble this lighting instrument.
Wow.
And just from that day on, I was just like, this kid has got some mechanical genius. And I say all this because this morning I was talking with a client who's got a very important person on his staff who's been doing this job just beautifully. And what's needed now
is that
is
job.
This job. It's like half of this one and half of that. And they're not effectively getting that done. And it remains to be seen whether he's asking a turtle to fly.
Okay.
And there is nothing better about a bird than there is about a turtle. Just they have different capacities. And sometimes there's commitment that matters, and sometimes there's capacity. And you could have somebody very fully committed to something they just don't have the capacity for.
Well, so you say capacity, and I hear capability. And capacity is a distinction of its own. Capacity to me says I don't have time, resources, bandwidth, and capability says I don't have skill, talent, training.
Great. I'm happy to make that verbal distinction.
Now there are 3 categories that you get to live into,
right,
for which stuff gets to be effective, right? I was going to say something else to you, and yes, to all of that. I was going to say that one of the responsibilities I feel like we have, and this is again from the Sullivan team, they had a process for delegation that communicated. I remember the format because we still use it to this day. Anytime I am willing to slow down and responsibly delegate, it has this format. Now, notice that caveat.
Oh, I know the caveat very intimately.
The cobbler's kids have no shoes, right? That's how that works. So the first thing is to name the project. The second thing is to underscore its importance in the business. The third is to identify the ideal outcome. The fourth is to describe in great detail what's the worst thing that can happen if the product is not executed in excellence.
I love that one.
The fifth is to describe what the best thing is that can happen if it's done in excellence. So worst thing that can happen, best thing that can happen. And then this is my favorite part. The most important is what are 5 to 8 what are called success criteria. A success criteria is a statement that can either be counted or objectively affirmed. So it's count or yes, no, something that must be true in order for the project to be considered a success.
Right. We have a signed contract.
Yes.
Right. It's got a signature. Right. We have a signed contract.
As opposed to something like we agree to blah. How do I measure we agree?
Yeah.
No.
Right.
A signed contract is a way to measure that we agree, right?
Yes.
So what we do is we go through that whole process, and it's done now very quickly. And what it does is it creates the role as opposed to the task, because the 5 success criteria now frees you of having to do some kind of workflow or work. I mean, you can have best practices and processes and all that stuff. That's all fine too. But you don't necessarily need to micromanage the person, because you have not just given them a sense of how important the thing is, because you've helped them help sell it to them, but they also have an opportunity to participate in its importance. And if you've done it right, they're very much enrolled in the importance of getting it done and the standards to which it will be held as successful. Because
Right.
there's nothing more infuriating than somebody doing something, they think they've done a wonderful job, and it is, poop wrapped in bacon. That's kind of the image that comes to mind, right? It just is
Yeah.
just terrible, and it's awful, and it smells, halfway decent.
Right. I love that. It's got me thinking about adapting
Mm.
our delegation model that we train managers in. Our delegation model starts with, "Hey, can I get your help with something?"
Mm.
And because and not even specific, just generally, so that you get the person's mind now open to hearing
Sure.
any details. There's no inbox until you pique somebody's curiosity.
Sure.
Until somebody's curious, they're not really listening.
Sure.
And if they say yes, then you go, okay, here it is. And then the next step is to negotiate,
Sure.
because they may go, oh, you know what? I can't do that. Like I'm willing to help you. I can't do that. And it's like, okay, great. Well, what would it, maybe it's fine. I'll take it back.
Okay.
Or maybe it's okay. Well, what would have to be true about your current workload
That would allow for this.
that would
Well,
allow this?
you're doing a beautiful job of setting context and learning
Right.
context.
Yeah. So thinking of it as thinking of delegation as something that requires negotiation puts it right back into that everything is sales.
Mm-hmm. And I think the part that we often miss, because, well, if it's important. So I was having a very sexist conversation with a friend of mine, and I was saying that one of the things that a lot of young men do is they project. So maybe you'll relate to this. You're an adolescent, and you end up having a crush on a girl in high school or whatever. And a
That
lot of
did happen
times,
to me.
okay, so a lot of times, a lot of young men that are infatuated will imagine that, well, if I feel this way about the girl, then clearly the girl must also feel this way about me, because how could she not?
Yeah, I didn't have that level of confidence. That did not happen to me. Quite the opposite.
Well, I don't know that I went through that phase either, but I watched a lot of people crash and burn, because that was the operating context. So in a lot of ways, I feel like a lot of us leaders, because we're the boss and because we have a bird's eye view on the business for what's supposed to be important, we imagine that everybody we talk to, when we talk to them, will also assign the same level of importance to the thing that we are supposedly trying to delegate.
Obvious.
Should be obvious. Same kind of projection.
Obviously, they know.
Obviously, they know. Or why would I be talking to them? Right. Right. So,
because I said it last Thursday.
I've been saying it for 3 weeks. Don't they listen? Yeah. No, because they have other agendas that are more important. And because the world does not revolve around us, guess what? You have an opportunity to level set context, sell, and make sure that you get buy-in. They understand and appreciate, and they can see their own future in it. That's the other part, is can you build let me say it this way. To the extent that you can have a person live into their own definition of dignity and value in the task being asked, is going to determine in a correlated way the level of commitment that they give to the action. And that's a big one I learned the hard way.
I didn't follow all that. Do it again.
No problem. the level to which they can see themselves and their value in completing the task assigned
Mm.
is directly correlated to the level of commitment they are going to show in it.
Fair. And some I would add that there's also got to be some level of belief that they can do it.
Yes, absolutely.
That something changed for me this week in something that I've committed to doing. I committed to riding, as you know, and as I think our listeners know,
Amazing.
I committed to riding from my bike from Seattle to Portland, 206 miles in
And
July.
there's no motor on it, right? It's just you and your legs.
Yeah, right. On a 20-year-old machine, which I've come to really love. By the way, I love this. What an elegant machine the bicycle is.
Mm.
Human ingenuity, incredible. And two things happened on Sunday that have totally changed my level of commitment to this, which I already had a level of commitment, which was I'm doing this. Right now it's I'm doing this and I can.
That's big.
So I will.
Mm.
And so one thing was I got up on Sunday morning when I planned to take a nice long ride. I said, I don't feel like it. And then I said, well, how am I going to feel about myself tomorrow if I don't?
It's a good one.
So I got on the bike. And I love what Chase Hughes defined discipline as doing today what your future self will be grateful to you for, which I think is just a beautiful definition. So that's one thing that happened is I said, I don't feel like it. And then I got on the bike.
Yeah.
Because putting it in a different context made me feel like it. It's not that I didn't feel like it, but I forced myself to get on the bike.
Right.
I didn't feel like it. I asked myself a different question, and then I felt like it. So that's one thing that happened. And then the other thing that happened is I rode 58 and a half miles. And I still had fuel in the tank, although my body was hurting.
I believe
my
that.
sit bones were hurting. My hands were hurting. Right. So there was pain. And there was still fuel in the tank. And so I was just like, A, I have the discipline. And B, I have the capacity, the capability.
Now I'm going to tell you a parallel story, and as we wrap up, and I realized for me, I do have, I guess, what would be considered a fair amount of discipline for a lot of the craziness that I undertake.
Yeah, you do.
However, I'll tell you how it goes to a different place. So on Saturday, the CrossFit box that I go to, they have a partner WOD that is scheduled effectively every Saturday.
A partner
WOD. Okay, so we're getting into cult language, and so in CrossFit, a WOD stands for workout of the day.
Okay.
So what normally happens in those gyms, they don't call them gyms, they call them boxes. In the box, you have one workout that everybody does for the whole day. So every class comes in and they do the same workout, and there's a prescribed version of it. So if you do it in a way that is exactly as defined, you get to log your scores and you get to compare against all the other people that have done it as prescribed. And then there's the scale category in which you can modify it because you have mobility issues or you can't lift as much or whatever the issue is. You can change it. You just can't put your score in the category that's defined. So I ended up being paired with this effective. I mean, the guy looked like a freaking superstar. I mean, I don't know why the coach put me with him. Maybe there was a lot of confidence there. I don't know. But I was like, all right, so now not only do I have to do this ridiculous, impossible WOD that's supposed to last 40 minutes, I've got to do it at a pace that does right by this other person that is now relying on me to go through the movements and transition so that we can switch and get through the entire workout together. Because the longer I take to do something, the more he's waiting on me and he's expending energy trying to get back to what we're supposed to do to finish together. And so, in addition to the two things you just said, I also realize that it is critical for me to dig deep when I no longer have motivation and discipline to support myself, to be able to not let somebody else down.
Yep.
And that will have me dig into energy resources I didn't even know were available. Because I know I will do so much for my own value, my own purpose, my own mission. But give me somebody that I care about or that cares about me, and say that I have to now deliver so that they can eat. Nothing can stop us. And that is where I think all of this comes together is, can you sell to the person that you are leading that not only is their life going to be categorically better because of whatever it is you're asking them to do, you also put on them the realization of the truth that the entire organization and the people therein are in some way affected and depending on them to deliver in excellence.
Yeah.
And if that is not true, you're giving them wasted busy work. Find something better for them to do.
So much of leadership, I think, of a team is in cultivating that deep, profound sense of interdependence.
Yes.
While at the same time rooting out and prohibiting codependence.
Amen. Love it. This has been fantastic.
We're going to have to leave it there.
Yes.
with a yeah, but how do we do that?
You got to watch the next one, the next episode.
All right. Hugh, always a great pleasure. Go forth and conquer.
Go and be amazing, my friend. Thank you for hosting another episode of Leadership Uncertain, Adventures in Power, Confusion, Love, and Dignity.
Yeah. Here's hoping. All right. Be well.